Well, let's start with United then. And Sue, ifs and buts, but if this had been a defeat, would we be discussing Erik ten Hag's dismissal this morning? Was it that close a call or not?
I'm not sure. There's obviously so much scrutiny after the Tottenham game, the way that they played, how disjointed they were, both on and off the ball, and then obviously going into Europe, going 2-0 up, probably not really at the very best, but 2-0 up, you're quite in control of a game and ended up drawing the game. So, yes, there would have been a lot more scrutiny if they'd have gone to Aston Villa and lost the game with a heavy defeat. I think that would have certainly ramped up the pressure, but you just feel the structure that Manchester United have put in place. I think we spoke about that they'd spoke to other managers in the summer. For whatever reason, they didn't go with another manager. They continued with Ten Hag. They backed him. They brought in other players. So I think after 6 or 7 games then to go, oh, actually, we're going to change our manager now. But if it was a heavy defeat, would that have then maybe forced their hands? So I think with it being a draw, it gives him, a couple of weeks in the international break. I know that players will be going away, but a couple of weeks to try and, I suppose, get things right and start to see progress, which I think is what all Manchester United fans want to see.
Yeah, it's about the progress, isn't it? I don't know. Seeing those pictures of Sir Alex there, I mean, it's a difficult one because you want to draw on the knowledge of people who know the club and are inside and have that kind of feeling for it. But also, it must be very difficult. I remember speaking to sort of people like Wilf McGuinness at United after Sir Matt Busby left. He was still at the club. And they've said it made it harder because the thought of him sort of prowling the corridors was always there. Is it a help or not a help?
I think only the people in charge will know that. I think a lot of people make a lot of this and sort of feel like it puts extra pressure on the managers. I don't think Sir Alex Ferguson's that type of person. I think he'd be there to, if you wanted information or if you wanted help or advice in any way. I don't think he'd be judgmental about anyone. I think he can be judgmental in his own way, but I don't think he'd voice those opinions. I think he'd keep things to himself. If he wanted to, he could come out of retirement and go, well, I'll manage the club again. I'll take on the reins if you really want me to. But he's not going to. He's done his time. Now it's about enjoying the game, trying to watch, trying to support as much as he can. I don't think he's there to be a negative influence on the manager in charge. I think he's trying to be as supportive as possible. Now, whether, again, you go back to the media, you go back to a lot of people feel that it is a negative impact on the manager. I don't believe it is.
OK, that's what that one. Because in contrast, we don't see Jurgen Klopp sitting in the stands with the Liverpool board at games, do we?
Yeah. No, that's true, and I think it's, I suppose it's whatever the managers want to do. So when they retire from being the manager of the club, they might just want to go and support. So whether it does bring added pressure, I don't know. I think as a manager, you've probably just got to focus on what you can do and what you can affect on the field. And I suppose that's what Ten Hag has to do.
Just going back to that point, though, do you think Sir Alex Ferguson would have an input into who becomes the next manager? Because I do. I think he'll look at that as the board. So I'd take that as a positive, as the manager, and go, well, Sir Alex chose me as part of that process. And it
happened with David Moyes, didn't it? And that didn't kind of...
No, but it doesn't matter whether it goes well or it doesn't go well. But what I mean is that he's obviously spoke about that manager and given a positive sort of profile of him and said, yeah, I think he's a good fit, I think he does this well, whatever. And going into the club then, you've got the support of an ex-manager who's been in there. The other side of it is I've got to be careful how I say this, but it's irrelevant what Sir Alex thinks of him because he's not making the decision as well on match day situations. It's his call. He's now the manager. You can't be sat there thinking, well, what would Sir Alex Ferguson do in this situation? You can't go through life thinking of that because you're a manager.
It's an interesting point because I lived in the Northwest in the late 80s into the early 90s, and actually up until that FA Cup win, the vitriol coming off the terraces at Old Trafford directed at Alex as he was then.
Yeah.
It was dark, it was bleak, it was really rather nasty. And then that cup victory came and it changed. But I wonder whether, Sir Alex Ferguson, the greatest manager, whether he could manage Manchester United now, because his management was all about having total control, wasn't it? And you just don't get that anymore. And whether that's hampering Erik ten Hag in some ways.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of bad recruitment gone on.
Yeah.
Now, I don't look at that squad and go, that's not Erik ten Hag's squad. I look at it and think a lot of those players, shout out to me, Erik ten Hag's made these signings.
Yeah.
Now, if I was a board member yesterday or in the hierarchy, I would have been very frustrated, thinking we've spent £500 million on this squad, assembled by Erik ten Hag, yet only 3 or 4 of them are starting, and 7 of them are on the bench. So I'd be looking at that thinking, well, what's your recruitment process? Why don't you back these players to be doing a better job on the pitch? I've got a certain style of football. He keeps on harping on about, I can't play this style of football, I don't have the right players, or I don't have the players able to do it. Well, you've just stuck 7 of them on the bench. And you've gone back to Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire, who you wanted out the football club. And suddenly you get a result out of it. And now it's a completely different picture. So I'd be looking at it as a board member thinking, you've wasted a lot of money here and you've reverted back to the old players.
But when Sir Alex said, if you don't play how I want you to play, I'm going to sell you. It doesn't matter who you are. Jaap Stam, David Beckham, all these players. I guess with Erik ten Hag, Cristiano Ronaldo was one of those.
Yeah.
But it was that total power that he had allowed him to manage the team in the way he wanted. And I wonder whether nowadays, modern football, you can do that now.
Well, it's difficult, isn't it, when you've obviously got other people that are making the decisions as well. But as Stephen said, I think a lot of the signings were Ten Hag signings when you look at the relationship that he's had with a lot of the players that he's brought in. But I think if I was Ten Hag, certainly I'd be having conversations with Sir Alex Ferguson. I know you have your own way of playing and your own style, but you'd certainly be talking to him about his experiences and what he's been through. Like you said, when he went through the difficult period and then he came out to be the greatest manager ever, you can say, well, how did you deal with that? What sort of things did you do? And I know football has changed, and like you said, it's changed in terms of you can't have full control. But I still think those experiences and I'm sure guidance, I would certainly be having that conversation, whether he is or not, I don't know.
But going back to the process of, or the question about power at a club, how many clubs in the top league or in the Premier League now will managers have full control?
Klopp at Liverpool?
No.
Pep at Man City?
Possibly, to a certain degree. Klopp at Liverpool worked under Michael Edwards for a number of years.
How did that end?
Well, Michael Edwards left. Yeah, but Klopp ended up getting the power, and then what were his signings towards the end of his reign? Not really outstanding. So when you look at that, that is the way the game's evolved and moved. If you look at the actual signings made, I'd say Guardiola's probably got quite a lot of say-so in Manchester City's signings because he's earned that trust on the pitch. I'd say he's probably second with the most power in the transfer window of signings made, because the sporting director has only just come into the football club in the summer. However, they went down this path of, we're going to sign certain players with a certain criteria. Well, he's bought Mazraoui, Ligt, knows them both from Ajax. He's brought Zirkzee in, who's worked in the Dutch league, so he knows him as well. He's played against him. So you look at those signings straight away and go, who on the board or in the sporting director's role has gone, yeah, they're the signings I wanted. Do you want them, Erik? And he's gone, yeah, I'll take them. I think it's the other way round. I think it's completely the other way round.
He keeps saying, doesn't he, that they're all on the same page, they communicate all the time. So whether it's because they have just come in, so he's maybe took more of a control, whether that'll change as time goes on. I don't know, because we've sort of praised Manchester United in terms of the transfers and how smoother they've been in the past, where it's been quite difficult. They've gone for a target, it's gone all the way through the transfer window, and then they haven't got them, they've had to go and get somebody else. So I think we praise them in terms of that's been better, but we'll see as it
That's been
on.
better, as in getting players through the door, but the value of them,
maybe not.
Not great, and the profile of them, not great. Because, again, you go back to the signings, and I look at players, and I look at the two players there, Mazraoui and Ligt, can't get in the buying team. And you're taking their rejects and going, oh, that's going to improve us. That's essentially what you're trying to do. Now, I know they're good players, but they're not getting in Bayern Munich's team. So why would you think we're going to take them into the English Premier League, where it's more physical, more demanding, and a club who is really struggling in Man United and need to improve, and we're going, oh, them two will improve us.
Yeah. Well, I think the worry yesterday, obviously, he brought in Ligt and Martinez, didn't he? That's his style of play. That's what he wants to do. And last season, when he was saying he had all the injuries to the back line, he couldn't play the way he wanted to play. And yet he's got the two centre-halves that he wants in there so that he can play that little bit higher. He can play the progressive football out from the back. And yet he reverts back to Harry Maguire and Johnny Evans. That's probably a little bit of a concern maybe for Manchester United.